Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today's webinar presentation is Japan and COVID-19, Impact and Response. Before we get started on the main program, I would like to remind our audience of a few things. Please use the Q&A section to enter any questions. The chat function will be disabled during today's presentation. We will have a Q&A segment after our main program. And at this time, I would like to welcome the Japan-America Society of Southern California's chairman, Mr. Douglas Montgomery, to start today's program. Doug?
Thank you, Joanna. Good morning, everybody. As Joanna mentioned, I'm Douglas Montgomery, chairman of Japan-America Society. We're an NPO focused on building and strengthening bridges between Japan and US, and we have been around for over 100 years. In fact, actually, this is our 111th anniversary this year, so it's a very, very special time for us. We are so very pleased to present today's webinar on Japan's COVID-19 impact and response with the Consulate General of Japan in Los Angeles, World Trade Center Los Angeles, and JETRO Los Angeles. With us today, we have three very special guests. First, we have Akira Muto, who was appointed Consul General of Japan in Los Angeles in August 2019. With over 25 years of experience in the foreign ministry and a background in Russia and policy planning, Consul General Muto has served as director of the Russia division, deputy director general ambassador in charge of the former Soviet Union states. He has also served as director of free trade agreements, economic partnerships, and as director in the intelligence service. As a diplomat, his previous assignments included stays in Washington, D.C., Moscow, and as the Consul General in Boston. In addition, we have Norihiko Saeki, who is serving as executive director of the Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO, in Los Angeles. And he helps coordinate collaboration between the US and Japan in the areas of innovation, entertainment, and investment. Norihiko also serves as a special advisor to the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry of Japan to recommend policy options and promote cooperation at the government level. Finally, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Stephen Cheung. He's Executive Vice President of LA EDC and the President of the World Trade Center Los Angeles. Stephen leads investment attraction to the LA County region on behalf of both LA EDC and WTC LA, and also supports international trade and international connections for organizations based in LA County. Prior to his current role, Stephen was the Secretary General of International Trade and Foreign Affairs for Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, and has long been one of the most influential voices on trade and foreign investment in the region. And with that, I will pass it over to our moderator, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman Montgomery. It was a pleasure to be here today with you, and happy anniversary to the Japan-America Society of Southern California. It's also a pleasure to be able to conduct this webinar with Consul General Muto and also Mr. Saeki from JETRO. We have a lot to discuss. As many of you know, Los Angeles economy is heavily dependent on international trade, and Japan has been a longtime partner for Los Angeles as the #1 foreign direct investor in Southern California for many, many years, and also the second largest trading partner to the Los Angeles Customs District. Japan has been a longtime friend, ally, and partner, and we've learned quite a lot in terms of the interaction that we've had with our counterparts in Japan. As we're entering this new age of dealing with COVID-19 and starting to plan for post-COVID-19 recovery, we are looking towards around the world to really look for solutions and answers. And there's no better partner than Japan to really learn how they're handling some of the things that are happening in Japan and what we can share as we're looking at the recovery phase. With that, I would like to introduce Consul General Muto to provide some remarks and also his thoughts and perspective in terms of what's happening right now in Japan and in the United States, so we can learn from each other. And later on, as we mentioned earlier, we would welcome your questions. If you can start thinking about some questions and putting in the Q&A section. Later on, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the session. At this point, I would like to introduce and hand it over to Consul General Muto for your comment. Consul General.
Good morning, and thank you for the kind introduction, Stephen. And thank you for having me here today. I look forward to the exchanges, and I'm happy to share the experiences that we are going through and the lessons learned in Japan. First, let me start by the numbers. As you can see here, well, I'll start from the number of cases confirmed in Japan. We have currently 16,000 cases. When you put it in comparison per 10,000 population, Spain is around 49.34, United States 46.18, UK is 37.45, and Canada 21.24. And Japan is, compared to these numbers, 1.30, which you can see is a very small numbers. Also, let me share the number of deaths. Now, currently, we have had around 700 people died from the COVID-19. When you compare the number in terms of per 100,000 population, New York City is by far the largest, 208. Spain 51, United States 15, Germany 7.3, and Korea is 0.5, and Japan is 0.3. So you can see how small numbers we have suffered, we have lost. With that, let me start by making three things. I would like to make 3 points in terms of what we've learned so far. First is the need for the unified command system and the whole of a government approach. It would be difficult to contain the diseases through individual state efforts, since they cannot be excluded the possibility for the interstate transmission. And you would need a unified command system or whole of a government approach that would allow to introduce the unified measures across states. In case of Japan, we are taking a whole of a government approach led by Prime Minister Abe, supported by the consultative committee of experts. Now, on April the 7th, Prime Minister declared a state of emergency for 7 prefectures among the total 47 prefectures under the advice of the consultative committee on the basis of a unified criteria, such as the numbers of cases confirmed and the numbers of cases doubling, as well as the ratio of unidentified routes for the infection. Where the restrictive measures have been introduced in close coordination with respective prefecture, taking into account the regional specifics. Now, in mid-April, Prime Minister expanded the emergency measures to cover all the 47 prefectures. And the goal is to reduce the social contacts by 70 to 80%, whereby we intended to peak out soon. Now, the Japanese software company called Agoop, which is a subsidiary of the SoftBank, has developed new apps for location-based big data, utilizing the global positioning system devices of the smartphones, which would enable to collect data on whereabouts of the critical mass, and enable to analyze the flows and the contact frequencies of the critical mass. Now, originally, this app was designed to identify the whereabouts of the critical mass in need of support in case of natural disasters, with due respect to their privacy concerns. Now, according to these data, it seems that we got close to achieving the goal of 70 to 80% reduction of the social contacts. And due to the emergency measures, the numbers of newly confirmed cases per day have dropped from 700 per day to 200 per day, and even less than 100 recently. Last week, the average newly confirmed cases per day was the 87. Also, the effective reproduction number, which is to mean the numbers of those contracted from single one person infected, has dropped below 1.0. Then the pace of the numbers doubling has also slowed down to 3.8 days from 2.3 days in Tokyo mid-March. So it seems that these measures have started to take effect in Japan. So last week, Prime Minister lifted the measures for 39 prefectures where the newly confirmed cases had been 0 for at least a week. So currently there are only 8 prefectures where the emergency measures are upheld. Now, second point I would like to raise is about the importance of the counter-cluster measures. Now, consistent counter-cluster measures are necessary in order to suppress the transmission and preempt the overshooting. Since once you allow the overshooting to take place, there will be no other means than to introduce such drastic measure as the lockdown, which would have the huge impact on the economy. So the Japanese government strategy has been to pursue the containment of the diseases through counter-cluster measures with minimum effect on the economy and the society. So we've been doing 3 things. First is the early detection of the cluster through the regional offices of the health department and engage in the in-depth analysis of the cluster. Second is keeping the cluster and chains of infection at a small scale through the modification of behaviors of the people. And third is controlling the spread in respective area through disease surveillance so as to end the change there. Now we consider that these counter-cluster measures have been effective in suppressing the transmission and avoiding the overshooting. WHO has also appreciated that the Japanese counter-cluster measures have been critical in suppressing the transmission. Now, our challenge is that since we have been relied upon labor-intensive manual contact tracing efforts, we will need to intensify the tracing capacity by increasing the numbers of the health investigators as well as the contact tracers at a regional level. Also by complementing the manual contact tracing efforts with the digital tracing technology through the use of the ICT. Now, the third thing I would like to mention is about the medical cure. Now, US and Japan have been engaged in the joint clinical test of the remdesivir developed by the pharmaceutical company Gilead in California. Japanese government has recently authorized and approved the remdesivir. Now, Japanese company and its subsidiary Fujifilm has developed its own experimental drug called Abigan, which has shown positive effects in some of the 3,000 cases applied. So the Japanese government is to expand the stockpile of the Abigan by 3 times. And we have already agreed with 45 countries to grant the Abigan. And we are open to the joint clinical testing of the Abigan with countries interested in. FDA of the United States has approved the testing of the Abigan at 3 hospitals in Massachusetts. We look forward to the further collaboration with the United States as an extension of our bilateral collaboration in the area of scientific research and health. Now, finally, let me mention about the support and contribution that the Japanese companies and Japanese American communities are doing for the local community. As we navigate through this uncharted water of the fight against the coronavirus, it would be important that we work together and help each other. In that respect, I am very grateful and proud that the Japanese companies, as well as the Japanese American community here in LA, are doing their part by supporting the local community. For example, Sony Electronics, based in San Diego, donated TV monitors with tuners to homeless shelters of Los Angeles. Toyota Motor North America, based in Texas, turned to producing 3D printed face shields to help protect the medical workers on the front line. A total 5,000 face shields have been donated to local medical institutions such as Keck Medicine of USC and Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Toyota Auto Body Corporation in Long Beach has made a donation of $25,000 to the United Way of Los Angeles. Now, Hitachi in LA is providing 1,100 books to underserved children who are learning at home. Also, Hitachi is producing PPE and enabling online STEM education. Iris USA of Arizona has donated face masks to frontline professionals in Riverside, the sister city of Sendai. And in Orange County, Matsuda donated $70,000 to Second Harvest Food Bank. In the Japanese American community, the Little Tokyo Service Center, the Little Tokyo Community Council, and Keiro have joined forces to use grant funding and donations to provide free and subsidized meals and groceries to local senior citizens and community members affected by the COVID-19 economic downturn. Now, the Japanese American Cultural and Community Center has also joined in providing walks for seniors in the beautiful Japanese garden to help them fight social isolation. Now, I am glad to note that Mayor Garcetti has recognized these efforts in his remarks on April the 22nd, in which he mentioned that our consulates, businesses, and diasporas who call the city home have stepped up to help LA. We have received PPE from across the globe, thanks to our collaborations with local diplomats. Just this week alone, we have seen 115,000 face masks, 65,000 gloves, and 54,000 face shields headed to hospitals from our Armenian, Japanese, and Taiwanese American communities. Yet we are not through this crisis. And I would very much encourage Japanese companies who wish to make further contribution to the local community to get in touch with me so that I can work with the office of Jean Seroka, the director of the Port of Los Angeles, to arrange the logistics to getting these items to where they could best serve the interests and the needs of the local community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Consul General, for your insights. It's really great to hear that Japan right now is able to handle the influx of the coronavirus. Los Angeles, as you probably have seen just today, our cases are now up to 39,573. And unfortunately, our death rate is at, our death number is at 1,913 as of today. So that's a huge number for LA County alone compared to Japan. So there's a lot that we can learn from. And another thing is also, as you're mentioning some of the solutions, we're really eager to look towards partnering with Japan and learning from Japan when it comes to vaccination, therapeutics, as well as technology that we can be deploying to help us in the recovery phase. And with all the Japanese companies that are already here contributing to the local economy and also the solution, this is wonderful to hear. And as I mentioned earlier, Los Angeles being so dependent on international trade and our international partner, this is the time to really start solidifying some of those partnerships. I also see that, sorry, I also see there are some questions already coming in from the Q&A, so I want to encourage more of you to send those questions in. We'll be answering that at the end of the discussion. Consul General, you had something to say as well?
No, I'm good.
Great, thank you so much. At this point, I would like to introduce Mr. Norihiko Saeki from JETRO to provide a presentation on some statistics and numbers that he's been gathering regarding Japanese companies in Japan in the United States. Saeki-san, would you like to do a presentation? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen. My name is Norihiko Saeki. I'm Executive Director of JETRO Los Angeles. I'd like to use a PowerPoint, so please wait for a minute. Wait a second. Everyone can see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Today I'd like to share with you about the role of the Japanese industries in United States economy and the California economy. And at the same time, I'd like to share with the current situation of the Japanese companies' response and the situations here. And before I start, I'd like to send my deepest condolences to everybody on the loss of or his or her family, a partner, and friends from the devastated COVID-19 pandemic. And at the same time, I'd like to extend my sincere respect to all of people dedicated to essential business, such as medical institution and public services and retail services, and other relevant manufacturing and service industries. And please allow me to introduce the role of Japanese industries in US and Southern California. As you may know, Japan is allied country, a nation of the United States after World War II. And US-Japan alliance is of critical importance for not only for the bilateral aspect, but also the regional stability of Asia. And at the same time, the US and Japan economic relation is so close. The Japanese direct investment in the United States has been steadily increased. Please look at this graph, right down the graph, steadily grown. And the Japanese direct investment here, its scale is around $500 billion, and 4 times of the US, that of US of investment. Japanese companies create investment creates jobs here and sustain the life here. And moving on, the number of the Japanese companies invested ranked top 3 in 1949 states, except Wyoming. The strong blue shows in 37 states is ranked first, and the pale blue shows second or third. The number is 12 states. So I think the Japanese companies invest widespreadly in the United States. And moving on, and the Japanese manufacturing industries also plays an important role of United States export. Please look at the left graph. The Japanese manufacturing companies sustain the largest jobs of all foreign companies located here. And the Japanese industries export covers around $90 billion and 6% of all United States exports. So in this context, not only services industries, but also the manufacturing industry of Japanese companies are important role. And moving on, I'd like to specify the current situation of the Southern California. According to the WTC report, thank you very much, thanks to Stephen's report, Japanese companies created 80,000 jobs and $6 billion wages here. And the left, here's the graphs. Here are the graphs of the creation of jobs and the estimated wages. And in our conclusion, Japanese companies play an important role in California and the US economy, and therefore I believe that revitalization of Japanese industry is really important in order to sustain the economy of US and California. Next, JETRO is currently conducting nationally focused surveys to determine the effect of the COVID-19 on the business of Japanese companies. I'd like to share the results of a recent survey conducted between April 28th and April 30th. This is the third JETRO survey in this series. Approximately 1,000 companies have been responding to this survey each time. First, let's look at the company sales. When we asked about sales from the past month, the percentage of the companies who indicated decrease in sales rose to 74%. In our second survey that we conducted just a month ago, 55% of the companies indicated a decline in sales, and which is a significant change of nearly 20%. We can therefore assume that the intensity of the business situation increased between late March and late April. And moving on. All the Japanese companies face very difficult situations, as the US companies also face. The Japanese companies still commit to business here. So the 70% companies are still expansion and maintain the business here. And moving on to the next page. At the same time, the Japanese companies commit to sustain jobs here. 70% companies to retain employment here. Actually, Japanese companies face a shortage of human resources. At the same time, and I personally believe this is the kind of the reflection of the Japanese human resources tradition. The recent economy has started to reopen, as you know. So we asked the Japanese companies that had implemented work from home policies or had suspended operations that challenges they believe in come with the reopening. Many companies indicated easing concerns from their works, securing face masks and other personal protective equipment, PPE, and the sanitation supplies, preparing to respond to the COVID-19 case, clarify state or municipal guidelines about reopening and maintaining social distance. Will be all challenges. So we like to facilitate to support the Japanese companies to reopening that could contribute to revitalization of the US economy. So here's the examples of the Japanese companies' contribution to a local society in response to the COVID-19. Now, the Japanese contribution faces Japanese industries face to very hard situations, but Japanese companies still make a contribution to local society. Here's an example. The lift is ventilators. This is developed and provided by Asahi Kasei and Honda and Nihon Koden and Toyota. And right side, face shield, the Canon and Hitachi and Honda and Nissan and Toyota. And plus masks. There are a wide variety of companies provide masks to the local societies. Denso, the first 13, Hitachi, Honda, Iris, Oyama, and MSIG, and Mizuho, and Nintendo, and Seven Holdings, SoftBank, and Subaru, and Toyota. There are other donations. The typical example of a donation is to the donation to the food banks. This is conducted by Honda and Matsuda and Bridgestone. And the other cases are to provide PPE, personal protection equipment, and this is also conducted by Suntory and Shiseido and Sony. Lastly, here's something I like to add: the environment and the health situation. Because COVID-19 suspends economic activity and the movement of people. In this situation, the clean air, the importance of the clean air is stressed in the importance in the media. So I would think you may see the satellite imagery of air pollution in the media or while at home. And actually, I clicked so many times. Here's China and Japan. And this is a satellite imagery of Sentinel-5P. And this satellite is designated to monitor the ozone or other substances such as methane and NOx and SOx. So in this satellite, satellite imagery, we can see the pollution, air pollution of each area. And in above imagery, we can see the before the COVID-19 outbreaks. The left, the below imagery shows the after the COVID-19 outbreak. This is a great distinction. And this is the also the case of the North America. In this picture, we can see there's stress in the Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. And here is the Los Angeles, the current situation of Los Angeles, and comparing the March and the April of this year to 2019 shows that drop in the smoke forming pollutant nitrogen dioxide. The nitrogen dioxide causes could cause the respiratory diseases, so it's very harmful to the people. And unfortunately, in Los Angeles, the nitrogen dioxide pollution is still very severe. So I think after the outbreak of the COVID-19, I think that the people will aware about the current situation and the importance of the obtaining the clean air. And as we know, the California state and the city of Los Angeles strongly promote the zero emission policy. And in California, California Air Resources Board, they are promoting the zero emission vehicle program. And at the same time, in the city of Los Angeles, the Mayor Garcetti promoted the Green New Deal policy here. However, unfortunately, under current situation, zero emission vehicle, the installment ratio is only limited to the 3.3% in the current situation. As a United States as a whole, the highest ratio is hit in the California, but its ratio is still 9.91%. And the current in the current situations, HEV, hybrid electric vehicle is the highest share, while the battery electric vehicle is still 0.64%, and FCEV, fuel cell electric vehicle, is 0.01%. I think they, this figure does not represent the bad situation, but it's a kind of the good, it's a room for the growth in the future. And I think here's a good news about fuel cell vehicle. Fuel cell, as you may know, fuel cell vehicle is a zero emission vehicle, and therefore it is a clean car. Compared to the battery electric vehicle, there's a good feature. There are two good features. One is the charging time is very short and the mileage is very longer. And so I think the balance between the battery electric vehicle and fuel cell vehicle, electric vehicle is really important in order to installment of the scale to sustain air pollution, to a response to air pollution here. Okay, here's my presentation. Thank you very much. I think the COVID-19 is very close to everybody, so we need to care about. Always we need to care about it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Saeki-san. Excuse me. It's very interesting information that you provided. I want to give some context as well to the audience as we're talking about this. Prior to COVID-19, actually at the end of January, between JETRO, the World Trade Center Los Angeles, the Japanese Consulate, we actually were part of a Verde Exchange conference program where we did a special panel specifically talking about the future of partnership between Los Angeles and California with Japan. Not knowing that the world is going to be completely turned upside down in a matter of months. But we saw that the future partnership really has an environmental, a green angle, because that's where the growth potential can be. Given Los Angeles is so focused on environmental sustainability, as well as greening the economy as well. And we saw that Japan has already taken so much actionable steps to get to that point, including their hydrogen technology. And specifically, as they were getting ready for the 2021 Olympics, and what we can learn from them, because Los Angeles is also getting ready for our 2028 Olympics. So at this point, I am glad to welcome back Consul General Muto to the conversation. And Saeki-san, if you can help us by turning off the share screen for your presentation, then we will do a Q&A session at this point. And then again, I want to thank the audience member who have submitted a couple questions. We'll get to that. My first question is directed towards Consul General. Can you give us a bit of an update in terms of what's happening with the Olympics? Because we in Los Angeles are very curious in terms of what we should get ready for and what we can learn. Consul General?
Because of the COVID-19, we very much regret that we have to postpone the Olympics this summer. But because our highest priority is the safe and the health of the athletes as well as the audience when they gather for the Olympic Games. So we considered having, gone through many exchanges with the Olympic Committee that we better postpone it and a year from. So it's going to be in July next year. And the date has been already worked out. I think it was July the 24th. So we just postponed it a year now. And we will be giving a new mission to the Olympics as we overcome the fight against the COVID-19. This would be a celebration for the whole mankind and enjoy the life after overcoming the fight against the COVID-19. So I think that would be nice that we'll many nice faces of the athletes as well as the people in the stadium getting together from all over the world to celebrate the Olympics.
Great. Saeki-san, if I can welcome you back to the conversation as well, would like to do some follow-up questions in terms of some of the things that you presented as well. We were talking about the Olympics previously, and being such a big topic for us as we're talking about environmental sustainability. You had a slide, a great slide about Los Angeles, the pollution in terms of NOx, or sorry, nitrogen dioxide that's been emitted throughout Los Angeles. And because of the COVID-19, we have a reduction in activities, especially when it comes to single passenger vehicles going all around Los Angeles. We've seen a drastic drop, and for the first time, we've been seeing clear days out of Los Angeles, being able to see the skyline, and we truly understand the negative impact. And we already know that as in Los Angeles, as Angelinos, but the thing is we can see the direct correlation. And so a lot of folks are saying because of the COVID-19 impact, are the environmental sustainability goals in not only Los Angeles, but around the world, is it decreasing? And then are the technology advancement that we've made so much progress on over the last few years, is it stalled? In your perspective, in terms of sustainability technology like fuel cell technology, how is the rest of the world, including Japan, looking at it? Is it a priority for them? Are they promoting this? Is it coming to a decline?
Thank you very much for the good questions. And actually, after the Paris Agreement in 2015, I think the world has greatly changed because the environmental awareness is really spreading after the Paris Agreement. And right now, especially in Europe, the hydrogen energy is strongly recognized as one of the important energy resources. So I think this phenomenon is widespread in Europe, and there are automakers such as German companies are trying to develop the hydrogen systems to the automobiles. So I think this phenomenon is not only European, but also Japan and even China. Then actually China declares the introduction of the hydrogen energy very strongly, and the installment of the buses, the hydrogen buses, is more than 6,000. The number of 6,000 is almost identical to the passenger car, passenger-based fuel cell vehicle in California. So I think if the policy will be changed, I think the movement will quickly change. So we would like to support to introduction of the latest technology of the hydrogen fuel cell, and at the same time the other related areas.
Got it. Thank you. We had a question about whether your presentation, the JETRO presentation, can be made publicly available from the Q&A section. So we will coordinate with the Japan American Society to see whether we can send out that presentation to the audience member who participated. So I want to address that question. A couple other questions also came up. I wanted to follow up with another slide in your presentation. Thank you for utilizing the data that we've created at the World Trade Center Los Angeles and the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation. We do an annual analysis of the foreign direct investment impact in Southern California. And I actually wanted to give you some good news because I'm going to give you a sneak peek right now. Next week, we'll be releasing a brand new report. And this brand new report will not only cover Southern California like the last few years, it's going to actually cover the entire state of California for the first time. Nobody's ever done that information. And the sneak peek is this: Japan is our #1 foreign investor in all of California, not just in Southern California, with over 3,880 firms, creating over 121,000 direct jobs with a wage impact over $11 billion all throughout California. So we're very excited about that report, and that will be released next week through the Los Angeles Business Journal. With that said, I want to go to a question that's been asked by the audience. In terms of these companies that are here in California and in Los Angeles, Saeki-san, you mentioned in your report, some of the activities. However, even before COVID-19, we were seeing some of these companies from Japan that are located in Los Angeles and California go to other states. Have you been seeing, and this question is for both the Consul General and Saeki-san, have you seen influx of companies leaving the Los Angeles or California region during this crisis, or has it stopped? What is the trend that's happening right now?
Maybe Saeki-san, you can start.
Okay, here's my answer. I think, yeah, actually, I don't know what will happen, but like under given situations, I think the macro trend of policy trend will not be changed in California. So I think the COVID-19 will not change the policy of the investment of Japanese companies. It's critically neutral. But yeah, and actually, I've heard there are several opinions about how the Japanese companies decided to invest in each state, and they are thinking about the level of the wages here, and so I think this is this might be a determination of the California state and maybe the Los Angeles not to facilitate very simple manufacturing companies here. So I think especially in the high technology companies, they're now trying to or thinking about and actually thinking about and invest here. So I think that under the given situations, I don't think there is no specific change about the investment flow.
Got it.
Let me add one thing.
Please, Consul General.
Yes, I need to say that there's a huge potential here in California in terms of raising the sustainability of the state. We discussed this before, Steve, about the the possibility of building the hydrogen-powered plant in California. Just before the COVID-19 crisis, the Mitsubishi Heavy Industry and the Hitachi Power System have gained the contract in state Utah for building the hydrogen power plant, which would start from the mix of the 30% of hydrogen. I think it was from 2030, but eventually will turn to 100% hydrogen in 2040. And the plant is possessed by the Intermountain Power Agency in Utah, but the operators are the LA DWP. Since the LA is also going to benefit from the power plant,
yes,
possessed by the Mountain Agency. Now, it is very it is worth to note that the building the 100% hydrogen-powered turbine plant is the only technology that the Japanese company like Mitsubishi Heavy Industry possess in the world. So there's a very much good sense that starting from the 30% mix of the hydrogen and gas, but eventually turning into 100% hydrogen by 2040. So I think this is one of the many potentials that we have in California in the future.
Yeah. A question about the foreign direct investment in the companies, Japanese companies that are here. We have a question from the audience specifically asking about what we're learning during this pandemic about globalization. Over the last 70 years or so, both US and Japan has benefited greatly from globalization. However, society has changed in the last few months. Globalization is not what it used to be, and the future might change that as well. What is your thoughts and your opinion in terms of whether globalization has changed or has it remained the same?
I think this is something that we would need to find out later. But my hunch is that it's not going to we're not going to supplement the globalism. Something very new. I think globalism will stand. But we will need to have some kind of adjustment. So it would be a kind of globalism. It's some adjustment after the COVID. But free trade and free investment would be the unchangeable trend for the world.
Got it. It's just kind of similar question because education has been this huge export for the California region with 118 higher education institutions in Southern California. And we're the only region in the United States, if not the world, that has 3 top 25 ranking universities located in one location. USC, UCLA, and Caltech being those 3. This is a huge market and industry for us. However, that's changed completely as well. A lot of these institutions are going fully online and they're trying to figure out what to do with next semester and next quarter. International students has been a huge part of our economy. And we're seeing Japanese international students are canceling education opportunities in record numbers. The audience that submitted this question wanted to see your thoughts on whether California and how California education institutions can help and other supportive services can help with this effort. Is there anything that can be done?
Well, you know, this could be a breakthrough. I mean, communication like we are doing now through the online could be a new kind of breakthrough for Japan as a student can get the top educations from abroad through online. And MOOCs is something that, you know, I wanted to introduce in Japan for some time now. But because of this traditional kind of conservative, you know, guidelines and interest, it has been so far due to the MOOCs in Japan, but these situations allow us to move forward towards introducing the online system, online education. Well, I am more positive on this.
Okay, that's great to hear. This is actually the last questions, and I want to direct it to Saeki-san. When it comes to your slide, there were, you mentioned that there are other regions and other states and how they're responding when it comes to Japanese companies. There was a question from the audience as well. How is the state of California responding to COVID-19 compared to other states, especially when it comes to Japanese companies' perspective? Are they more or less effective?
Yeah, thank you. Very good questions. Before answering this question, I'd like to answer the previous questions. And just here's one thing I'd like to ask about investment here. As you know, the Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles is very now famous for the environmental innovation. So the companies, Japanese companies are now trying to set up the offices here to collect information and the policies. And so I think after the COVID-19, I think as a mayor, Garcetti is a chair of the C40. So this trend will not change. So I think the innovation itself is a good target to attract foreign investments. And with respect to the education, I think the COVID-19 had a strong effect of the online education. I think in this context, I think there could be a great competition of the universities, not only US, but also globally. So actually, the students are not necessarily go to the actual university, so they can access to the from their mother country to access to any countries. So I think not only the Southern California, but also the North California and East Coast universities, they are all got into the global competition of universities. And the last question. Sorry, please repeat. Please repeat.
How's California compared to other states? How are they doing to respond to COVID? For Japanese companies, are they doing a good job? Is California doing a good job helping Japanese companies?
Yeah, I think in the given situation, I think there are 10,000 people infected, positive cases in California, across California in the world, and 5,000 positive cases still appeared in each week. So I think it's very difficult for the mayor and Garcetti and Governor Newsom to decide when to actually open. Yes. So we Japanese companies are now thinking about what kind of measure is needed to suspend. At the same time, they also cares about an opening of the factories. So so it's very difficult for me to make a comment, but I think in the current situation, I think the mayor and governor decides everything correct.
Great. Well, I want to thank the Consul General and Saeki-san for your time. We're actually out of time right now. We're at noon, and we have a lot of great questions from the audience. So thank you so much for your questions that are coming in. As we're going through this process together, again, we've mentioned it multiple times that the world has changed. I think we've seen more policies and more action that seems to be more nationalistic and centric. At the same time, we realize the global connectivity, especially with us here in Los Angeles, who are so dependent on our international partners. And some of the numbers that we've said before, including the foreign direct investment that's here, it's a great example of how our economies are tied in together right now and also in the future. I don't think that we can continue to move forward with our economy in the future without our partnership with the rest of the world, and especially with Japan, given the strong tie that's there. So I want to thank the Consul General and Saeki-san for all that you've done and all that you continue to do for the Japanese community, Japanese American community, and also Angelenos here. We look forward to continuing this partnership to finding a collective solution on whether it's vaccination, whether it's therapeutics, or whether it's technology to help us control the spread of this COVID-19. And I want to, at this point, turn it back to Chairman Montgomery and thank the Japan American Society of Southern California to host this very important conversation. Once again, Consul General and Saeki-san, thank you so much for your time. Mr. Montgomery?
Thank you, Stephen. I'll add to that. Japan American Society would like to thank our panelists, Consul General Muto, Saeki-san from JETRO, and also Stephen Cheung from the World Trade Center, Los Angeles. It is lunchtime, and we do pride ourselves on starting on time and finishing on time. So with that, I will just make one more mention. Please watch for Japan American Society emails, social networks for more exciting and informative webinars that we have coming up this summer and the fall. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe, and I will pass it back to Joanna.
Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you once again to all of our panelists today. And that will do it for our programming today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you need any details on upcoming programs and membership benefits, You can go ahead and look at the screen right now for our homepage URL, and go ahead and get social with us. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you are interested in any of our upcoming programs, our social media is the best place to go. So thank you very much, everybody. And once again, have a safe and wonderful rest of your day and week. Thank you so much.